this is why collaborative processes are so much better bouncing off ideas and whatnot, because the idea for the lazy river came in when we were standing in the gap. Basically, there wasn't water before. It was just kind of a little gap there that used to be a floor. She was like, well, I can open this up and people can fall into it like they're in some water. And I'm like, that's a good idea. Wait a minute.
Welcome to Metaverse Degen. I'm Lion.
I'm I'm old man Raptor with the tongue tied with something stuck somewhere it shouldn't be. And our guest is
Rue, the one and only.
Ooh. Thank you for joining us, Rue. It's an absolute pleasure having you on. Thank you for your
Roger.
time.
Yes, it is. It's great. Yep.
Ooh. What is it?
Thanks for having me.
What is it you're most known for here in VR, and how did you get started with it all?
Mostly known for being a big ass loudmouth, but no, I'm just kidding. Honestly, in VRChat specifically, I'm known for. You ask anybody, they'll tell you. They'll tell you. Mama got a mouth on her.
I can argue with you. I can argue. Well, no shit, man. No way. No how. I ain't arguing with anybody. Not in VR.
But in all seriousness, though, I'm known as a VR artist, a DJ, someone who arranges events and things. I'm creator of Kaleidosky with Terra and Electro, and many other people in Beat Syndicate. Beat Syndicate is our artist collective. I used to work years ago for a company called WaveXR. I was a resident artist and DJ in that application. Grindcraft actually took me on, of all people. But we used to create shows and events. We worked with a lot of bigger artists like Into Subculture, Sophie Tucker. We did Burning Man's show in 2020. The company decided to close their VR division down and fired all of us, and we kind of looked at each other and said, with this little family we've built over the years, do we disband or do we stay together? So we formed an artist collective, Beat Syndicate, and we all have our own projects in here. Like TOTC has Deviate, mine is Kaleidosky, but we work together as a family to teach each other, learn new things, and collaborate on projects to make all of our individual projects that much better. And it's worked out really well. So that's why you'll see like some of that stuff kind of scattered around here and around with some of the stuff tangential to other artists in here.
Okay. So what pulled you into VRChat and getting a VR headset? What got you into here in the first place?
That's definitely a long story, but we'll bring it succinct. Back in 2017, I had what was called a cholesteatoma, which is a fast-growing benign tumor in the ear. Now, I speak fast. If you need me to slow down, you say the word. But that thing grew so long that it crushed 2 of my hearing bones, and I went deaf in my right ear for approximately 8 months after they took that tumor out. I have a hearing implant in there now. This is my second one because it happened again. But they put a hearing implant in, and they told me you can't move or pick up 5 pounds for 6 weeks. And I'm like, 6 weeks? What am I going to do for that 6 weeks? And then that was at the time that the old Oculus CV1, the tank, had just come out. And I'm like, well, I've always been kind of tech adjacent. I mean, well, let me see what this new thing is over here. And one of the first things I searched up was stuff for music, and that was Wave VR. And that's where I went in and saw the special experience they had built with Strange Loop and Imaging Heap and Glitch Mob. And I was like, oh, this is cool. But that's where I found people doing regular events and shows. It was where we could take and build our art, upload it to Google Poly, then go into Wave VR to build our shows like a diorama. Literally just picking from a menu, bringing in something, sizing it in the world, and placing it, and creating 30 different scenes to do that. Well, we would have, when I was working them as a resident artist, every Saturday, we would have these parties, and I've been doing this every Saturday night for 6 years now. It's unreal. But every night afterwards, we would come to VRC. I came to it just by saying, well, here's another VR chat app, and we want to talk some more. And this is an event-based application, not a social-based application. So I said, well, let's try this VR chat over here. And every Saturday night, we would open up a world, usually in the room in the rain. There's a classic for you right there. And we would have the video player. We'd put on some DJ mixes or something like that. And people would just come in and out, and we would sit and talk for hours as kind of an after party thing. But it's one of those things where one of our DJs also DJ'd over here, and we're like, oh shoot, let's go see one of the clubs over there. And so we went into DDVR, and that started the sickness of coming over on the regular to see our friends play, see other people play, to meet new friends and people, but also branch out into the rest of the wider community because we were at heart. We weren't just DJs; we were artists. We were everything that we were creating in the world, we were creating by hand, and then put accompanying music to it. So we were trying to branch out and meet a whole bunch of other creators. And in that 6 years, I have met tons of people, some of the best and brightest creatives in here. It's been a wild ride. It's been a real wild
Hmm. So what kind of art do you do in real life, and how did you get into that?
ride. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I swear to God, I was not an artist for my entire life at all. I have, I wouldn't put pen, and I still can't put pen to paper to this day. I don't think I have. I feel very discouraged doing that. However, when I got into Tilt Brush, which is now Open Brush, free on Steam, as a matter of fact, I recommend anybody download that because the reason why is because when I got into Tilt Brush, I found that having a 3D space to paint in was immediately more freeing to me. I'm like, I can't comprehend like trying to do perspective, all this stuff in 2D artwork. I never could do it. But when I came in here and I had 3D space that I could move, I could turn, I could do, I had all of these tools at my disposal, and I was like, wait, I can create with this. This is great. You know what I mean? So I had a 3-year period where I would spend 30 hours a week in Tilt Brush creating stuff specifically for the weekend and then blast that show out. It was like one of the hottest times I've ever had in creation in my life. I'd never been an artist. I'd done music production many years ago and stopped that after catastrophic data loss, but I never considered myself an artist of any kind. You know what I mean? Building, designing, and stuff like that, never had done it. But after I transitioned, it became a lot easier to be myself and do things that I could not do. And that changed my life more than anything.
Oh, really? How so, may I ask?
Yeah. Because I spent almost 3 decades not being able to be myself. I grew up Mormon and in a very repressive and abusive household, and it took me many years to unfuck myself. Pardon my language. I hope that's okay. But there is no other word for it. There is no other word for it. And when I finally was able to do that and push away all of the negative and things that were, smothering me in my life, I took off like a rocket ship. Because I know my talents and I know my potential and I know what I'm capable of when I put myself to something, but I never applied myself to that because all I knew was, depression or not wanting to exist, but not understanding why. I knew why, but I couldn't get past that because I come from a time that some may remember that if you were trans, you had one choice. You gave up everything and everybody in your life, period. No exceptions, because you had to start a whole new life somewhere else and to be safe, to not be killed. Nobody had to ever know about your previous life. And many of us were never willing to take, we couldn't take that step, My transition only began when I saw things had really changed about 10, 12 years ago. When the younger generations that are coming up that are a lot more progressive than my asshole boomer parents. And things really did shift to where it became safer to come out and say, hey, this is who I really am, and I have been this entire time. And once I did that, I finally felt that validation myself. That imposter syndrome went away. And I realized this is who I am, and always have been. And that passion just turned to everything else in my life, That's why I'm encouraging others to do that in here. That's why I'm, I'll be honest with you. I've been called an egg cracker, everything, but I'll tell you, I've seen more eggs crack inside of this place than a goddamn chicken farmer. And it's the truth. Because when people see somebody like myself, who I don't like, but I'm social anxious as anything. I don't like to get out in front of anybody. Barely making this interview right here, doing things is a little bit nerve wracking. It always is. You know what I mean? I like putting myself on display, but I have had countless examples of people coming up to me and saying, seeing you inspired me to begin my journey in gender expression. And it's because they see a woman who is herself, feels confident, sees people interacting with on a normal basis and not and people say, I want that. I want to be that too. I'm glad, because that is the whole idea. You know what I mean? I can serve as an inspiration for them to find their happiness too. You know what I mean? My smile is genuine, and they see that. They want that.
Hmm. Well, I'm glad to hear you were able to find peace and happiness in your decisions in life. Um, you
Yep.
said you said earlier before you got into VRChat, you're on a platform called Waveform. What was that platform like, and how is it different from VRChat?
Okay. Wave VR was what it was called, and it changed to Wave XR. I believe they exist in some capacity, still burn through VC money. Shh, Mama didn't say that. But anyway, Wave VR was what I call an event-based application. It was VR. It was based in VR. The idea was at certain times you could enter the application, and there'd be a small area they called the Expanse. It was like a central hub gathering area, and from there you could teleport to like the rotating 15-minute special shows that have been done with like Glitch Mob, like I said, an Imaging Heap. These were repeating shows you could always pop into the application and see. Or there were resident artists and DJs like myself. We had our own personal, they called them caves, but really they were just like party rooms that you would open up, and then people could come in and see stuff like this, where I could take models and art and build this into different shows and switch between the scenes. So I didn't just use like a static venue like this. I'm not used to that. I'm used to everything around you changing. So I could tell stories. I had one of the like a budding bank robber. We would, one scene was set in the neighborhood, had all kinds of houses and things painted up, and then the next, we had scrollers and stuff like that. So I could rotate, I could scroll a road by while keeping a static object of a car with the bunny kind of hanging out of it. So, it's telling the story as the scenes move along, but accompanying the music to it. That's what Wave VR was built around and to do. When we did Burning Man, I had 85 artists from around the world, including a class of 400 Chinese students, art students, that all created art individually for the Burn that year. And it's still up on YouTube. You can see it's some of the most amazing virtual art I've ever seen painted, even to this day. People really put their ass into it. But Wave VR was where people could come and just enjoy these parties and these shows. And we would have sometimes 400 to 800 people on larger events, and some of the largest ones like Burning Man were 8,000 to 17,000 even. People just coming into the application and enjoying it. Yeah, they got huge. People, when residents like artists like Rez, she played several times in there. They were just like this, and it was always a pleasant experience. But when they came in and played, it was like 4, 5, 6,000. It was impossible to get into the same instance as somebody else. It wasn't based like this where you could see your friends. You would jump in a poster and it would take you to the next instance that had availability. So it was not near as convenient as something like that. That's what I really enjoy about VRChat and how it's absolutely progressed in wonderful ways since they've introduced wonderful features like groups and instance queues and other things like that, so people who run larger events or groups of things, can function that much easier without having to use external sources like Discord to arrange and do everything. But that's kind of what Wave VR was. It was very limited because things only really went on in the application at the time the events were going on. Any other time, it was dead air. Because there wasn't anything to do in that little central hub area. That wasn't what it was about. It was about coming in for the show, jumping in, then leaving the application. This is where VRChat came in more and more and more. At first, I didn't play over here because I was doing so much on the weekly over there, trying to kick out shows, weekly brand new venues every 2 weeks, that I didn't have time to play over here. But I started playing a little bit, and then a little bit more, then a little bit more, and then suddenly I was playing weekly without really intending to, but it's just the way it is. You know what I mean? You meet more people, and they're like, "Hey, could you come play for me? Could you come play for us?" It was a really good time, and that's just kind of how it sped up over here. And then when Wave VR closed down, it would seem a natural pivot to come into VRChat, and so what we all did is we pivoted straight into Neos.
Oh wow.
Which is, and that's because we met a lot of people in Neos we've been platform agnostic. Beat Syndicate has worked in Wave. It has worked in Altspace. We've worked in VRChat. We've worked in Neos. Worked in Rec Room to do events. Shows. See whatever the thing called for. We've always been platform agnostic, and Neos is one of them that we went into that a lot of us really enjoyed because it was Neos and Resonite now is built around sandboxing, getting in there and having people who are developers, coders, and stuff like that, getting around in a very small group, maybe 10 to 12 people, and kind of go, I had this idea. I wanted to do this. And these people get together. They open up basically a Unity plane inside VR. You never have to get out of VR to do anything in Unity. You just literally open a menu, change it right there, and the world changes with you. The item changes. You build something, and it just happens right there. So that's why it was very good for learning, for collaborating, and building little things like that. So what happened over there is we all learned a lot of the tech. I credit Neos for teaching me a lot of Unity, period. I couldn't learn that before. But over there, I had people who were very patient and said, no, this is what this is right here. And this is what this is right here and how you adjust this. Oh, look, see, you just made it spin. Okay. Even little idiot me can pick up on this stuff. Okay, I like that. And so once, in Neos, we did a lot of learning, a lot of pre-planning and stuff like that. And that's where this was born initially. I was, I'd done the testing in there, Psychedelia Central, and we built something very similar in around four post. I call it 4 posts, but basically north, south, east, west, you have some kind of different activity. A little jelly bed there, little 0G zone down to Mario Kart there, a relaxed zone, the fishy dome. But the idea being people can go to each one of these zones during the time. But to get to any other place, to get to any other zone, they have to come back through the middle here where everybody's talking and hanging. So it forces these random interactions between people to get them meeting, to get them talking. Little things like that, design choices. This is all done iteratively over the years. It isn't just something you suddenly go, oh yeah, this is exactly how you do it. It's through observation and watching people at events and how you design it and how they react to it and what they do. That are the things we learned in Neos and why that was a good pivot for us to move to there before we moved into being in VRChat more often. If that's an explanation.
No, it's a great explanation. I have a whole lot of questions from all of that. First of which, since you and Beat Syndicate have been platform agnostic, what are some of the things each platform does a little differently or uniquely to each other? Because I've only been in a handful of other applications, but I'm curious since you've been in them all and ran events in a bunch.
Absolutely. Well, let's see. For example, as I said, Wave VR allowed for massive amounts of people to come in. Really, unlike anything in here, but it would automatically slot people. Each one that was its disadvantage. It'd be harder to join your friends in the same instance. That's kind of a problem. But we could have 4,000 and 8,000 people in there. No problem. No problem at all. The advantage of Neos was the ability to change things on the fly, to have complete control over the minutest detail to the minute. There was no updating or anything in Unity and all right, everybody, we got to reload the world because we just did. Nah, man, I just updated it and closed it and you didn't even know it. I changed something, and it taught us a lot of stuff. But the big disadvantage of Neos is peer-to-peer. Everything. So to do anything for larger events, you'd have to host headless servers, somewhere and have everybody connect to that. It was a pain in the ass and it was not stable. Has groups of maybe 25 to 30, which is not what we were used to at all. It didn't really work for us in that manner, but it worked perfectly for the platform and what it is meant to do. Altspace, there's another one where it's very limited in that it was basically Android based. It couldn't get past, we understand what that is now. Years ago, people didn't really understand the limitations of that. They thought it was mostly browser-based. But really, if you would take what Questies look at now, that's pretty much exactly what the limitations were in Altspace. And that is very simple, but that's to give access to everybody. And that's why Quest users, especially older ones, were a lot over in Altspace because they could do all this creation stuff without having to necessarily be connected to a PC. Over there, we had wider access. We could do events and there were people and professionals anywhere in the VR and XR space, they could access it, be it from browser, Quest, or higher PC headset. You know, it was because it was run by Microsoft, it was very accessible. But also, you had this much room to build in when you wanted to build in this much. You know what I mean? So it was extremely limiting in what kind of vision you were able to put down, what kind of technology you wanted to deploy. You were given what they had, and that was it.
Oh. So, with what platforms are you currently running events in with Beat Syndicate and as yourself with Kaleidosky?
Personally, I've only been running in VRChat for a few years now because it's to do between two is very difficult, very, very, very difficult, and building into is just nigh impossible.
Mm.
We have now Beat Syndicate does have people running stuff in Resonite, and which is now Neos's new name kind of thing. Brooks and Carol settled that whole thing, and we are in VRChat. We have several people in here that run weekly events or bi-weekly events here in VRChat. But for the most part, at the closing of AltSpace, we elected not to really touch Rec Room because you don't have any control over there for much of anything, and it's got its problems just as much as over here. Same kind of thing. The public's here, you're gonna find some kids screaming. Over there, you end up having them building Nazi symbols. I mean, it's all part of the fucking filth that sits at the bottom of social places. Adults realize dumb shit's always going to exist. It's catering your experience to avoiding that.
Okay. So, what started Kaleidosky and Beat Syndicate?
Well, as I said, Beat Syndicate started when all the artists at WaveVR were fired and told bye. And so we formed Beat Syndicate as a collective. But it's not just those artists. We have gathered, a whole family of people along the way as we've grown. It's not something that can I apply to that? And it's not some kind of exclusive thing or club either. It doesn't even matter that. It's more like the people who have ended up joining Beat Syndicate have been the ones who have been around for a while and have been like, I like creating this kind of stuff, and I want to create this kind of stuff. And they're part of that process, and they very much jive with us because, like I try to tell people, the best way to sum it up is to use an old high school trope. We are not the popular kids. We are not even trying to be. We're the art class kids. We're sitting in the back with our heads down, working on something like, come here, you got to see this. This is so fucking cool. You got to see this, and just not caring about anything else except for the passion of creation and showing wonderful things to people that want to see that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? So that's kind of what Beat Syndicate is. As far as how did Kaleidosky start, I was over in Neos and I had seen these models. That's why it's inspired by circuitry on the door. Circuitry had these models where they were kind of really small and they could do some weird kaleidoscopic things. And I was like, wait, why don't we build that into like the whole damn sky? Like, I don't want to just like look at this thing from the outside. I want to be in this fucking thing. Like, I want to be in this. This would be so cool. I want to throw a whole bunch of shit at the sky at it. Like a texture would be really, because you could add textures to it. Well, then we started building. I worked with Hidi, who is an amazing creator, absolutely, and Queen Hidari. And we built kind of a prototype over in Neos and tried a couple different things over there. Like, should we do this and should we do this? And eventually, it was like, now it's time to move over to here into VRChat. I'm like, I want to build this over there. I built an initial world over here about 3 years ago with Terra. It's called Transcend. And it features, it's one of the places you can actually see my art and a lot of other people's, because when Google closed down Poly, where we stored all the VR artists in the world stored our art, they just, well, we're closing it and it's gone. I was like, I can't let all this wonderful art just disappear. So I took 113 pieces, best ones I could find and get permission put in there, and put them in the world. And a control panel Terra made to flip through all the different stages that were built and the different artwork. And that was kind of like my first this is what I'm putting out there into VRChat. But I really wanted to build this thing. And so I talked to Tara. I'm like, okay, here's these models that I've, recreated, and here's the idea. Do you want to work in a world together? And that's when the first version got opened up. Since then, we've added we added a revision in 6 months, and that was the one you ran into, probably 2.0 with the laser river and everything. And then just last week, we premiered this one, 3.0. My plants are back. I love it. And, it's all come down to this collaborative. This is why collaborative processes are so much better, bouncing off ideas and whatnot, because the idea for the lazy river came in when we were standing in the gap. Basically, there wasn't water before. It was just kind of a little gap there that used to be a floor. She was like, well, I can open this up and people can fall into it like they're in some water. And I'm like, that's a good idea. Wait a minute. There's probably something to that. And then she's like, wait a minute, I found this aquafloat system. And we could put stuff in it and make a lazy river. I'm like, oh my God, yes, we got to do it. That was, her introduction to the process. The last one, I was like, we've been trying to do something with this basement and everybody wants a ball pit. We can't do that. Hell, how about we just do Mario Kart? Let's get Here's Rainbow Road's model. Can you stick that in there? Shh. Don't tell Nintendo. I don't need them coming and shutting me down like everybody else they've been doing lately. But anyway, sure enough, she stuck it right into the world, and Electro rewrote Korea. I can't say their name. Their cart system from the ground up to make it work in here. I'm like, oh my God, we got Mario Kart. And then arcade, it's amazing because we're like able to bounce off each other so well with ideas that it just keeps stacking and stacking and stacking into something just absolutely mind-numbing with how crazy it's become and how much fun it is. Because the idea I wanted in here is, I have so many friends in the DJ community and other artists that to feature. This is a place, it isn't a club, it's an event. And it's a listening event for the most part. There's people who come in here for live vocal performances, DJ performances, live modular music, dancing. It can be just about anything, whatever people want to do. But the idea being them to come and present this and take people on a journey instead of just playing something or doing something random. That's kind of what I wanted them to do, and that I'm very appreciative. So we have a lot of artists to go through. I've been involved in the Japanese community very fortunately now for almost 4 years, thanks to people like Sarah Kai and some others. And a lot of these people I have come to play here, and people from the EU and the North America. So that you have to make a long event. Like, really, if I was doing 3 DJs a night, it would take me 4 years to get through the number that I've gotten through right now. It'd be impossible. So I knew we were running long events. But when you're sitting in a place for so long, it's like, man, I'm bored. All I'm doing is staring at a screen and listening to music. I'm like, I want people to come out of the world and feel like they're playing. Have fun. Have different places to go inside of it while still kind of keeping them central to the thing, And so it became a playground. And that's the idea, because people can sit in here for 8 hours and they're like, what, is it over? Dang, that whole night went crazy, because they don't get bored. They have something to do. There's something to play. Or you can just float along easily in the river looking at the sky, listening to conversation behind you as you go by, It's built to be something that people can sit in for long periods of time. And we've just iterated on that to make it better and better and better and more fun, because that's what I've always tried to build. And especially with the events or with my own DJ sets. Early on, this was my therapy. It helped me get through some very, very, very rough times in my life, And a lot of people come in and they'll say, I have no idea what this means to me. Like this, I'm able to forget a lot of my problems in life or just what I'm struggling with for a little while. And I needed that. And I'm like, well, I know. Because that's the same for me. And that's what I'm trying to put out to everybody else on a weekly basis. So they can come in and smile and feel a little better for a bit. Hey, mission accomplished.
So what dragged you to, or what led you to wanting to run virtual events, and what kinds of things have you learned from running events through the various platforms you've been involved in? Hello, I'm going to quickly interrupt your video. please come follow us on any of our socials. We have a card down that way in the description, metaversedegen.co. You can find us on Discord. You can find us on Twitter, which X, whatever. Right here in this space, you'll see the @ you can find me, Lion. And as well, we have a Patreon, which we've started a whole other show as a thank you for those who've signed up, such as Training Fangs, Forbidden Zero, and Niche. So thank you all for watching the video on how these games are going. I'll leave you to the rest of it. Enjoy.
I'm nuts. Completely insane. There's no other explanation for it, okay? Because what initially got me started on it was just friends going, well, hey, why don't you make this event? You know? Like, just do this just this one time. Make this, it'd be fun, right? It'd be fun, right? Just this one time. And then I did that event and impressed Grimecraft and the creators at Wave VR, and they hired me. Well, then I was obligated to do a show every week at that point, you know, in a good way. I loved it. But then after you do that for so long, you become so used to the planning and the running of the event, not just the performance and the art and the music and all that stuff. And I got used to running events, and that just kind of stacked on itself to when I came over to here to run events. I've learned, I mean, I understand. I don't really probably credit myself for what I picked up in the knowledge because it all seems like so easy to me, whereas somebody else has never encountered it and doesn't know what the heck it is. It's easy to remember about any skill you gain that other people coming to it new don't have the same perspectives you do after being exposed to it for so much, for so long, you know? So running events and doing these things seems easier to me, but it is not. It is very difficult, and it takes a massive amount of time. You know, I work as a hospice nurse for a living, and that takes a good good portion of my time. And what's left over is devoted to communicating with people, setting up events, doing special things. You know what I mean? Not just the day in, the day out, but like the competition for rain dance coming up that we're trying to organize for the Art and Culture Festival again this year. You know, it's a ton of different things. And I've learned how to balance that very well, along with my regular job and decompression time, because everybody still needs that, you know? I've learned how to balance that, but that's why some people trying to come in for the first time, they're going to struggle. Same as I did. They're going to be pulling their hair out, the same as I did. You know, so when you're frustrated and things are just like, oh my God, realize that's part of the growth process and going, okay, this is how I'm going to do this better next time. And this is how I'm going to iterate on this. So I ain't got to deal with this bullshit again. Because nobody wants to. Nobody wants to, but that's how you learn and grow through these things. And that's why I'm able to do the events and organize, 8, 9, 10 people a week from these different fucking languages. It's crazy, but you know what? Again, when I hear people's experiences when they come in here, they're in awe. They're in wonder. And like that was just, how does every weekend keep being this much fun, this good? And it's really because of the respect that every artist brings into here. When I ask them, why would you not play other places, but take us somewhere, take us on a journey? And boy, howdy, do they do that. No comparison.
So,
forgive me while I get a sip of water.
Oh, go ahead. You did mention earlier that you've been running VRChat events for quite a while. What has led you to settling in VRChat to run events? What made that switch from being platform agnostic to settling in VRChat?
I think when they hired a new designer that added a lot of wonderful, convenient features that no longer take as modding and other things to take care of, a lot of people were like, "Oh my God, EAC, it was terrible. It was the end of the world." It was not. It was the best fucking thing they ever did, hands down. Period. Because the very day they implemented that, all them script kiddies that were coming in, crashing instances and doing anything ended, and I ain't seen one since. Bye. Secure instances, a ton of, but you know what? It also took away a lot of the mods that were quality of life for a lot of people. The first example, again, is the one who I built with, Heidi. She immediately posted to Twitter, the one mod I did miss was the one that, brought voices down because she's autistic and gets overstimulated. Also has a hearing loss like myself, a very severe hearing loss. And having that earmuffs allowed me to filter all those outside voices and be able to hear correctly. Then we started getting things like groups. And chat box to be able to communicate with people. Why does that help? Well, it doesn't just help for youth to be able to communicate, but it helps me because there's a program called ShimaiPad that a Japanese creator made that I can turn on and have voice recognition and a translation in the chat box above my head. This makes communicating with people, from the Japanese side, it enables so much more communication than we could ever have, period, because they can use the program. I can understand what they're saying. I can use it, and they can understand what I'm saying. Things like instance queuing. Oh, you don't have that other places. You know what I mean? All these quality of life features that have been introduced to make events or by proxy make events that much better, easier to run, collate police, because everybody in Beat Syndicate all has the same access. I don't have to micromanage my entire instance because if one of them's over there and somebody says anything that is out of line with the poor vibe and accepting vibe that's in here, they're gone. I don't even need to come over here and fight through anything. They're just gone, moderated. Because everybody has that power, not just the person who opened the world. Things like that are very powerful and very enticing to continuously running in one environment.
Oh. Oh.
It's okay. It's Dad on the phone.
Sorry.
Just want to know if he's gonna pick up tomorrow's lunch.
Yeah. Somebody's
I got a
somebody's
question.
telling me something, just like anything else. They got through the Google call screen. Who'd have thought? Who'd have thought?
I got a question for Ryan. When you first got into VR, and I try to ask this a lot, and everything else like this, the first time you ever got into VR and you hopped into a world and you saw something and you go, whoa, and backed up and got the hell out. What was it?
Translation, what's the weirdest thing you've ever seen?
Oh, the weirdest I've ever seen in here? Or the first weirdest thing I've ever seen in here? Because, honey, it's VRChat, okay? That should all need to be said about that.
The first thing that you first hopped into VR, you got your gear, you got in, you got into VR, saw it, and you're going, what the holy... We hear Knuckles and all that kind of stuff. That's usually the biggest one.
Oh, I'll tell you. No, the first time I got in here, it was actually in desktop. This was before I got in here in gear. And this was like 2016 or something? 15 or 16. I'm trying to remember. It might have been 15 even. But I think it was 16. Doesn't matter. They had just started allowing avatar uploads to people, okay? So we got in, and I was walking around the Great Pug, back in the oldest version of that thing, and somebody was running around in the Truino from Initial D, and they were spamming the mic music to it, Deja Vu, and just like doing donuts in the fucking Great Pug. And I was like, what in the fuck am I looking at right now? What the hell? Like, you gotta think this is like so early, never heard of it, only just saw like basic avatars. And I'm like, bruh, we running in the 90s in this thing. This is different. I don't even know what's going on over here, but it seems like it's a lot of fucking fun. That was kind of the very first weird what the fuck moment for me. Literally one of the first times I came into here.
Wow. Well, I'm going to lead you to ask another question since you've mentioned you've played since 2015, 2016. How do you feel about all the changes that has happened in VRChat over these last years? From everything you've mentioned to all the graphical updates to even the community changing. How do you feel about how everything has progressed over the last couple of years?
I can tell you the speed at which it's progressed, probably from when I entered till about the time EAC came in, was maybe like somebody riding a bicycle on a leisurely tour through, a nice wooded area, got along to where it needed to be. Sometimes it meandered a little bit, sometimes got a little slower. So after EAC, it was a fucking rocket ship. It took off. Devs worked tirelessly and they worked hard, and they really don't feel like they have stopped since, honestly. The place took off and became so much better. Accessible. Improvements were just around the corner constantly versus we got this feature, but it's going to come someday. the place took off, and it improved the lives in here in so many different ways. With each iteration, it's just gotten better and better. How has it changed? Oh my God, in so many different exponential ways. We have the ability to filter avatars now. I don't got how to have that very poor cancer avatar that was with screen space shaders, making everything go. You know what I mean? Like, holy moly! It's been a thousand wonderful things and a little bugs along the way. Everybody remember the audio glitch bug where just you would lose voices randomly on a Friday, Saturday night for like 3 months. Like, that's a fun one. That was a fun one. But it's progressed in better ways every single time. You know what I mean? I do. And it's not just because, not name dropping. I'm friends with a lot of developers, but a lot of them came in because I introduced them to. A couple came in because I introduced them to the platform. And some have just met along the way. They're people like you and I. That's the difference between VRChat and pretty much any other VR applications I've worked in. The developers, the people who work on that, dog food their program. They're in here. Some of them are your friends. You don't even know it. But they are around. They are very much invested in this because this is what they love. Unlike other places where it's like it's a fucking 9 to 5, and they just walk in, punch the clock, and get the fuck out. There's a huge difference in that here versus other places. I cannot stress that enough. And if you have a chance to meet and talk with them, believe you me, you're going to find there's some of the most interesting and kind people that you can meet. And I think that reflects in here a lot. The care that's taken and how much it is user focused.
Yeah, even from a lot of the people we've talked with and the other platforms I've been in, you could definitely see the love they put in the platform, even down to how the culture is built, like the VRChat Pipeline, for example. You come into VRChat, you deal with public instances, and then shortly after that, you find your avatar, and then you're picking up a skill doing a thing somewhere here in the virtual lands, whatever that is. And along the way, you can definitely see all the love and attention and care they put into the platform. I do agree with you. It is a very unique platform in and of itself.
I'd agree. And like you say, the VRChat Pipeline, that's some people get to skip that, and that's really it's how do we tell people how to skip past that, come in, and that's why Twitter is a big place. Even though I hate it as much, but it's the primary place where we put out things out to say, hey, if you see this, you don't have to go through these public. Here's the group to join, to come directly to us and never have to go through that public situation or any of that stuff. But what you just mentioned, though, is true. After that caught my attention a little bit more, and that is true. VRChat, like many others, teaches you real life skills. It makes you want to learn them that are applicable, and I've seen people get work from that on many occasions. They start out with, well, I just kind of want to make myself look a little bit better. Well, look at that. I'm learning Blender. Well, now you know how to upload this thing. Now I'm learning Unity, and next thing you know, they're in game dev. Or they're working in the industry creating models and things like that. This has happened on numerous occasions, and I've seen it happen in the EU, with people in the EU and in the US. It's really different. People are, like you said, people are teaching themselves a skill, something that's applicable, be it music, be it art, be it world creation, be it avatar. There's so many things you can do in here that it's just, it's limitless. And then there's the one thing that it's given me out of all of this that I never had before in my life, and I'm so glad to have now, and that is fulfillment. It's wonderful. Wonderful.
I got another one, Wayne. I got another question.
Shoot.
What life skill that you said life skill that you brought in here that you might share with somebody else if they come up and ask you, no matter what it is, what's the number one thing you would say?
I think people come to me a lot of times because they know they can talk to me privately. I'm not mamaru just for no reason. I take care of my kids. I take care of a lot of people in here because sometimes they know people need someone to talk to. But when it comes to the life skill, let me tell you, I have so many DJ progeny in here, it's not even funny. A lot of even like some of even like, oh my god, that's right. I did it. I did like get you started on your journey because that's what I like to do. I like to mentor and teach people because I can show them. I tell them I'm like, hey, I was a nurse from Ohio. Ain't nobody, anybody can do what I do. But it's like a journey. We're all headed to Cleveland. But I'm starting from, Memphis. You're starting from. Nobody wants to go to Cleveland. That's why it's a hilarious metaphor. Okay, give me a break. But our journeys.
I just want to know: are they walking or driving, or are they walking, driving, or just throwing their asses on a bus?
That's my point, sir. You're dead on it. Our journeys are not the same, and they are not even comparable. I may be taking mine in a faster route. You may be taking the easy and slow route. But I always tell people, I can teach you the basics. It's like Tetris. I can teach you the basics in under 2 hours to get you started and get your journey moving. But you're going to spend the rest of your life mastering and learning new skills that complement that. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And once you give people that confidence and that little base, they run with it. And I've seen so many run with it and grow in like just so far beyond anything I'd imagine, It's wonderful to see because they find the same thing I did. This new thing. I kind of like making playlists and stuff. I'm like, oh yeah? When do you be ready? When can I teach you? They're like, oh no. I don't think I can about 2 months later, like, he was talking about maybe teaching them like because they see their friends too starting this out and having a ton of fun with it. And they're like, well, why can't I do that? Exactly. Why can't you do that? The only thing holding you back is just not starting. There is no sucking at it. I mean, shit. You got to suck really fucking hard at something for a while, and then you get a little better. That's the way it works. That's the way it works.
Can I answer that one? I'm going to leave that one alone.
Raptor, don't say and start things and not say things.
Well, it mounts on how much you put the vacuum cleaner to it and turn on the switch and hope somebody be smart enough to tell you how to shut it off. If you're sucking that bad. Sorry, my bad.
I'm going to paraphrase my own father. Raptor, the vacuum is not meant for that.
Well, I know that. At my age, you don't think I... What the hell? What? Oh, my God. Oh, boy.
I'm sorry. No comment.
Sorry about that, Rip.
Fair.
Oh, you're fine, baby. No, you're fine.
Just over there going, God damn, how'd the vacuum cleaner get involved? Yeah, I don't want to know.
So I didn't think you was talking about a vacuum cleaner at first, if I want to be dead honest, but, whatever.
Yeah, I got you. I was, but hey, what the hell?
I do have another question for you. Where did you get your name, and what made you choose the avatar you're in?
My name... That's a question that rarely comes up. You ready for this silly story? I have never had a name ever stick in my life whatsoever, but for years, I started over... I've been in a lot of different metaverses and MMOs and other things like that. Anything that had a whole bunch of people in it interacting, I was always like, let me be part of that. I played Final Fantasy 14 from the initial and then into Realm Reborn, all the way up until about 2018. And my character's name over there was Peruru, which is kind of fit the naming conventions for the character. Had a good time with it, but when you run around with friends, like I did a lot of raid leading and stuff like that, and I would pick up groups on, their first runs and stuff like that, teaching them how to do it. And it was fun. But when you're sitting in like Skype and then later Discord, and people are calling out for, because I was healer for the most part, they're calling out for heals. They start to say your name, Peruru. But then, eventually they get a little more desperate, and I'm a little deaf when it comes to focusing on things, and then it became Ruru, and that just flowed off the tongue well, and eventually it was just them like screaming Roo all the time, and then that's how I ended up with Roo. Period. That was it, and it stuck. And when I left, that area, I was like, this nickname is pretty much stuck everywhere, including places in real life. I'm like, that's who I am. As far as the avatar, I've been a furry for life. I always wanted to be a bunny girl. I was as misogynistic as it is to say. When I was younger, I looked at the Playboy bunnies, and I was like, I want to be that. I want to be that beautiful. I want to be seen that way, Hey, who's a fucking bunny girl now, bitches? Fuck you, Dad. I was right and you weren't. I look good and I feel good. I was able to build my ideal self in here. And that's why I mentioned that in the PBS documentary, because I knew I only have a little bit of time to say something. And the most important words I could possibly get out to anybody in that case was, this place is unbelievable for safely exploring identity of any kind, trans, furry, whatever it is. It's a safe place to be able to come and explore that outside the pressures of family, culture, life, and everything else, and find who you really are. You know, that's why I said earlier, I've seen a shitload of eggs crack. It ain't just me, it's this place. It's the ability to put on any identity, customize your presentation to others down to the minutest detail. Can't do that other places. You can only do that here. You can create whatever avatar you want on IM View. You can go do things in Rec Room and make some kind of semblance of it. Here, you look exactly how you want to look. You present exactly as you want to present, and people see me exactly how I want them to see me.
Thank you for sharing that. It's very informative, and I appreciate the story. I do agree with you. VRChat does do that quite a lot. I've seen a lot of people here come in, I would say, as a normie, and the next thing you know, they're in furry avatars, going to furry conventions, or coming out as trans and other things. And it's very rapid after they kind of accept, cool, I like this avatar. It always, every conversation I've had of similar venue started with that one line. I like this avatar, and then off down the rabbit hole.
Personally, I blame VRChat for the massive influx of femboys in the last 4 years, okay? Because they everywhere and they so cute. I love them. But it's been an amazing place for people to sit back and go, oh, wait a minute. I can be safe expressing like this. People think it's okay. It's like, yeah. And that's where people who try and marginalize communities and lifestyles and identities find their asses thrown to the curb real fucking quick in here. Real quick. Because people in here can moderate their experience and say, you know what? You could treat me like an ass in real life, but here, fuck you. Out of my life. Out of my instance. Out of here, because they face real consequences of ostracization in here they probably couldn't face in real life. And it bugs them. And I love that it bugs them. VRChat is a very rainbow place. And that's why I love one of the best memes to come out of VRChat. And the truth is that Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon album cover. Remember that? With the prism? And on this side has the white light coming in, and it says user coming into VRChat, and then out the rainbow comes out the other side. VRChat right there in the middle is the prism, because that's the damn truth. People come in here, and next thing you go, rainbow. So many people discovering themselves. It's truth. Be it the furry community, be it anywhere else, because they're like, hey, I can be myself, man. Be who I want to be. Exactly, you can. You really can. And people will accept you for that. That's very, very powerful when it comes to a social environment. People want to be around that, especially ones like furry, trans, other people who are marginalized communities can feel safe. That's not an easy thing to find in real life. Sad as that is.
So I want to ask you another question. What keeps you running events and doing what you do? What drives and motivates you to continue doing it?
Seeing all my children happy, honestly. That's what it comes down to. When I say my children, look, people over me are my children too. Okay, I'm motherfucking Teresa over here. Not to compare to someone great like that, but everybody is. You know what I mean? I wasn't able to have children myself. Everybody I take care of, I look out for everyone. I'm a nurse at heart, but seeing everybody doing okay, seeing people come in and have special experiences, like seeing the artists come in and just lay down some amazing things and being so proud of their work, and having the people around them celebrating that work. I'm always going to do this. I've found my passion, and it fulfills me in ways I can't describe to you. I'll always be doing this, and I'll always be motivated to do it. You know, even one other stop.
Hmm.
So I like to see people happy. I want to make people happy. And it's the way I found to do it.
Hmm. Well, thank you so very much, Rue, for sharing your story with us. It's been an absolute pleasure hearing all of it.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for your time.
Yes,
I appreciate it.
indeedy.
Y'all ask some wonderful questions, I gotta say.
Well, you're
Yeah,
most.
It's been a pleasure.
Where can the audience find you if they wish to find you?
Well, all you gotta do is add me. 2 letters. RU. Can't miss it. Can't miss it. You can always come into Kaleidosky every weekend. This is a place for safe space for people, all walks of life, from anywhere, period. You know, people are free to join on me at any time. I want to hear their life story. I want to know about them, meet people. You know, anybody's welcome. And I was, you know, really, I want people to come support the people that come in here and play every weekend because they put a lot of effort into it. You know, some work for a month. I'm just trying to craft something special. I think that deserves attention. I don't need attention. I got way too damn much of it coming my way anyway. You know, in my own opinion, but whatever. I'd rather you know I try and use that to pivot it and focus on other people. You know what I mean? I wouldn't think that's what it's about. I don't. It's not that I don't need that. I really don't. But I know other people that could benefit from it and definitely have a better life. I want to see my kids succeed. Enough about me. Sorry.
Never be sorry.
Humble like that.
Whenever
Yeah,
people go
thank
on
you,
rants,
I
whenever
really
people
appreciate it.
talk about things they enjoy, Raptor and I both at least enjoy hearing about it. Always. So never apologize.
Mm-hmm. Yes, indeedy.
Hmm. And with that said,
Y'all
Raptor,
have been a pleasure to speak with.
oh, and you've been a pleasure to speak with as well.
Oh, yeah.
We wish you the best.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And with you in the audience, we'll
Mhm.
see you in the metaverse. Raptor, you know the thing.
Yeah, I hear you. Next time you're roaming around and you see Rue and everything else like this, and the door opens, just ask her where the altar is. Because I can't find Mother Teresa, but she sounds like she's close enough to it. We'll talk to you later, folks. Bye.